Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation's applicant webinar for the next ARLP, Australian Rural Leadership Program, Course 32. My name's Philippa Woodhill, and I'm Director of Partnerships at the Foundation based on Yuggera and Turrbal country in southeast Queensland. I'd like to pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and those that walk alongside us right now, navigating and stewarding the lands and seas in which we all choose to live, work and play. We recognise their continuing connection to land and sea and continue to walk together in the spirit that it will benefit our shared future. We're really excited today to be joined by some alumni to bring life to the experience that is the Australian Rural Leadership Program, and also to give you some information about the application and selection process, as well as a little bit more detail about the program, and of course respond to any questions and queries that you may have. Before I go any further, I'd be really keen to introduce those that are joining me, and we do still have a few others yet to come. And at the same time, if you could introduce yourselves just in the chat by saying your name and where you're dialing in from as well, that'd be great. Over to you, Gemma.
Thanks, Philippa. My name's Gemma Gordon. I work at the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation. I've been there for about 8 years. I'm based in Canberra on Ngunnawal and Ngambri country, and I work with the ARLP funding partners who provide the scholarships for the program. Grant.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name's Grant Melrose. I'm based in Warwick in Queensland. I'm a ARLP alumni. Course 24 I completed, which I believe from memory is 2018, 19. So yeah, I'm here to and happy to help answer any questions that you may have about applications or the program in earnest. So yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we will have, on cue, I'll give Bernice a few moments and just go through some housekeeping as that happens. If you can please stay on mute unless participating in the Q&A towards the end. We'd love to hear from you in the chat as to where you're calling in from, and a recording of this webinar, the previous webinar and some additional blogs are all available on our website as well. And I'll say it now and I'll say it again. If you do know somebody that has participated in the ARLP, then by all means ask them any questions that you have as well. And if not, feel free to give the office a call. Bernice, it's great to have you here. Would you like to give an introduction just to yourself, and we'll give you a little bit more time in the back half of this webinar.
Thank you, Philippa. The joys of technology, finally here. Good evening, everyone. How are we all? I'm Bernice Hookey. I am a graduate fellow from course 29. I'm a proud one-year woman, mum to two boys, or two grown men now, and and I'm very passionate about amplifying voices of women, but also having our men walk beside us as well, for breaking down barriers and supporting them on their empowerment journey. So that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Bernice, and it's great to see the diversity of places that everyone's coming in the chat. Thank you for sharing. And for those that have joined, if you can continue to introduce yourself, that'd be great. Joran, Joran, did you, I think you need to introduce yourself as well, please, our tech expert for the evening.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Joran. I'm the Marketing Communications Manager for the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation, and I'll be driving the tech on the back end today. So if anything isn't working, just let us know in the chat and we can work it out from there. Thanks, Philippa.
Thank you. We might go to some of the very few PowerPoint slides I promised that we have, just to give you some context alongside the audio. I want to make sure I'm talking to the right slide, Joran. Awesome. So as said, there will be time for Q&A at the end. And the Australian Rural Leadership Program is the longest and most in-depth experiential program in the country, and we continue to be committed to it serving rural, regional and remote Australia, its people, its industries and its communities. So I'll get some of the detail about the application process up front out of the way. Obviously, at the moment, you're doing your research and getting as much information as you can about what's required to both apply and then really what you're going to be committed to. And so the application process, there is a written application or a typed application, and that cutoff date is the 5th of August, which is fast approaching. We encourage you to get in there. We can see that there's plenty of those that have started applications. If you're having any troubles, please do contact us to help navigate both those questions and any technical issues that you have, so we can ensure we have the strongest applicant pool for our program. Following that, those applications will be assessed and shortlisted, and we engage some of our alumni to assist us with that, as well as team members at the ARLF. And that shortlist then will have some readiness calls. And those readiness calls are really around you both understanding the expectations and commitment. If you've got any questions at that point, it's really important, again, that you ask those once you start to get into the detail. And really some questions also about if you're having the conversations both with your family and your workplace about the program, the opportunity that it is, and also the commitment of your networks around you. And I know the alumni will talk about the networks around them that helped enable the best experience for both themselves and their loved ones. Following those readiness calls, there'll be group workshops. So rather than a traditional interview, which we've done in the past, we are seeking to engage in group workshops, which will bring to life some of those interactions that you will have on program. We'll use some case studies. It'll be around issues and opportunities and challenges that you well and truly know about, both in your day-to-day work and your lived experience as community members in our regions. Following those group workshops, there will be further readiness calls, and that's sometimes there's further information we seek to ensure that we can match you to some of our funding and the scholarships that are available. And also to see, again, if you've got any questions, if other things are coming up for you, if those that have participated in the group workshops have observed any particular queries or observations that they'd like to dig into a little bit further. And so those readiness calls following that will actually then, be the successful applicants. And that's aligned then with the funding, the scholarship funding model that we have, and we'll get to some of that a little bit shortly. That is the application process. Many alumni will say that the process of the Australian Rural Leadership Program started for them when they first filled out that application form and entered the process. And I know some even on this call will have reflections in line with that. So I did say you're committing to something, and I did speak about it being a commitment that will impact both your workplace and your family. And so that commitment is 4 sessions in person over 15 months, of which you're looking at about 40 days. And it's really important to understand that, in particular, even for those coming from more remote communities, that the travel also builds into that time away from home. In the first session, you know, there is an opportunity for you to really detach yourself from your work and your family. And we strongly encourage and actually insist that that's an opportunity to defrag and disconnect from our hyper-connected world. And all these things have really deep intention processes, learning opportunities for you in the design of the program. In addition to the 4 in-person sessions, which are within Australia, and there's a remote and international session as well, we do have some virtual workshops that complement the learning and ensure that the group remain connected, and also make best use of our time when we're in region and on program together. And what are some of those opportunities for us to leverage the virtual platforms we now have accessible to us? So in those sessions, there'll be some coaching, action learning groups, and some self-directed learnings. They're not all going to be cohort-wide gatherings. Some of them will be in smaller breakout groups as well. In addition to that commitment, and as the beneficiary of a scholarship that's valued at over $60,000, there is a commitment for you to report back and communicate that to those that have been genuine enough in their interest and commitment to the future of rural, regional and remote Australia, that they've invested in you and the cohort. And so we need to ensure that we're communicating back through to our sponsors and our funding partners to ensure they understand what's happening for you, what are you learning, what are you giving, and how are you connecting with the other participants on the program. In addition to the scholarship investment, that is an extraordinary opportunity for you, there's also a financial commitment that we ask of our participants. And that participant contribution is a demonstration of your commitment to your own learning. And it's also goes directly into our ability to continue to do the work in our programs and give you the best possible opportunity. I touched on locations. Some of those locations, and I guess the best way I can share it is to tell you what cohort 30 have just done. And so their first session, oh, there you go. That's much better, Joran. Thank you. And allows people to look at the journey. And as you can see, there are multiple touch points. And this diagram gives, I guess, the entirety of those touch points amongst the other opportunities you have to engage yourself with your peer group. So for course 32, your first in-person session is in June next year. And I guess it's important to really reflect then on the fact that you're applying for a program in August, that really it won't be until towards the end of the year, you know, the outcome of that selection process. And we do our best to get that comms out. And actually it can continue to happen right through until March. And so we'll continue to be in contact with you over that period so you know where we're at as we make a matrix and a puzzle to bring to you and rural, regional and remote Australia the best cohort possible. So your first in-person session is in regional New South Wales. And that's one of the longer sessions that you'll have in person. And it is the session where we ask that you disconnect from your workplaces and your laptops and your mobile phones, and even some of your loved ones as well. Before you do that, there'll be an opportunity for you to engage in some coaching and ensure that you're set up for success and you're really clear and intentioned about why you're stepping into this program, what you're hoping to achieve, and also what you're hoping to get out of the program. Those virtual coaching sessions will continue throughout, and you can see those dotted throughout the snake in front of you. And in addition to that, there'll be some action learning groups, and that's about bringing to life what you and your peers care about in a safe environment to experiment with new initiatives and initiatives that maybe are already in train and you're keen to amplify their impact. Towards the end of 2025, you'll embark on an overseas experience And that's really about understanding shared cultures and also gaining a perspective of Australia looking back. And I'll get to some more of the curriculum elements shortly. In addition to that, then you'll go off into Central Australia for the third session in May 2026. And really important that we connect to some of those remote communities and experience some of the opportunities and challenge and cultures that live within all of our communities and how they're different in different regions. And then finally coming together around influence and impact in September 26, and that'll be in South Australia, both in the regional and capital centres in South Australia, bringing to life regions and the opportunities and some case studies that exist and the leadership that's showing up, both that is positional, but also the leadership activated in collectives right throughout those communities. What you'll notice then in each of those sessions and in some of the words, there are some words that are really important to us that bring to life our leadership curriculum. And more of this web information is available on our website. But the ARLF really want to focus your attention on how you show up. What are those leadership behaviours? What are those practices that we can really hone and work towards in building our leadership capability? So awareness, connection, affiliation, influence all become really important in bringing to life what is the Australian Rural Leadership Program. In terms of, I think I've gone through that one. Yeah, great, thank you. I did just touch briefly on the curriculum. Our work has been built over 32 years of experience working in, with and for rural, regional and remote Australia, and trying to best understand the leadership practices that we hold dear to us. And so for those that have done some of our more recent programs, they will refer to them certainly as the 6 A's. And earlier programs really used similar language, and it was more recently that we've packaged it up like that. So one of the things you can be confident about is that some of the experiences and the immersion and the deep learning about self and your ability to influence and walk with others is really the same impact that you get from this program as it was any of the programs that have gone before you. The program then is experiential in its nature and really process orientated. And so whilst we might give you a range of content and tools and tips and tricks, really it's the process of undergoing a shared experience with a group of diverse individuals from across the country who all share the same genuine and authentic commitment to rural, regional and remote Australia and its future. That's where the richness of the learning is, and being able to and remind ourselves to hold our own views softly enough that we can take on the views of others and experiment with ways in which we show up. In addition to that, all of the work and all of the learning is bedded in the reality, the reality and the real life circumstances that both you show up in every day and also some of your community members. And so for us, it's really important that the engagement you have with industries and communities is alive within the program content, and that the group gets an opportunity to bring some of their wisdom and acknowledges the leadership practice that's already happening out there, and how we can bring our own leadership practice and initiatives into a diverse group and learn to better amplify our leadership and the impact we want to have long term. The other thing I'll touch on briefly is really the importance of the diverse participant cohort and the importance of lifting our head above our region, above our workplace and above our industries and sectors to actually seek to better understand how we can contribute back where we care most. And so lifting our head, looking out to the horizon, and then coming back in and applying some of those lessons in between become really important, as does the peer group and the learning that you will get from each other. I could talk all day about the ARLP, and it is best shared through the voice of some of our alumni. So before I do that, Gemma, I might just hand over to you in regards to some of the sponsor expectations, please.
Great, thank you. So as Philip has referred to, the program is funded predominantly through the provision of scholarships. So these scholarships are an investment by a range of industry, corporate and philanthropic groups, as well as some government departments, in the leadership capacity of rural, regional and remote Australia. So when you put in your application, as we move through the application process, we are constantly assessing your applications against the list of scholarships that we have available. So you may be eligible for more than one scholarship. We have a very small number of precious open scholarships as well. Then as we create a robust and diverse cohort and we match you against the scholarships for which you might be eligible prior to putting a recommended candidate to the funding partner more formally at the end of that process. So the expectations of the scholarship recipients vary slightly depending on the funding organisation. Some have quite a hands-on, involved approach where they like to regularly hear and engage with you to hear about your experience on the program, what you're taking away from it, what you want to do with it. They just love to be quite hands-on, right through to a much more watch and see approach, I guess. At the end of the program, we also have a formal requirement that you submit a written report, and that we again provide guidance to support you through that process. But the idea is that is your formal sharing of your experience on the program, what you've hoped to get out of it, and then what you'd like to go on and do with that experience into the future. And that's submitted at the end of your experience. I'm happy, normally I'll leave it at there in terms of formal information, but feel free to pop any questions that you've got in regards to sponsorship into the chat and I can answer them there.
Thanks, Gemma. There is one question that's come through in the chat, and that is, does the RLF proactively seek new industries and program sponsors from rural, regional and remote Australia for sponsored positions?
Yes. In fact, this is what a very small team of us do almost constantly. So we, of course, always take suggestions. If you think there's an organisation that we should be speaking to and you have a point of contact there, please feel free to send that through to me. But we have so both myself and a philanthropic and business development manager, that's what we do almost constantly. So both maintaining and communicating with our current funding partners, as well as the seeking of new ones. So yes, is the short answer. You're on mute, Philippa.
Someone had to say it at least once in the webinar.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Gemma, and thanks for the really great question. I can't see any more questions at the moment, but please do start entering your questions so we can have our best chance at answering them. I am going to hand over to the alumni of the Australian Rural Leadership Program. And Aaron, I am going to hand straight to you. Grant and Bernice have given a really quick intro. It'd be great, Aaron, if you could do that, and I will let you indulge just a fraction more in terms of some of the context, who sponsored you, where you are, and what you're doing now.
Thanks, Philippa. Good to see you again. Sorry, I was a fraction late getting on. I was dashing back in from the calving paddock. So, yeah, course 29 participant. I'm here on the Gurnai lands in southeast Gippsland in beautiful chilly Victoria. I'm a dairy farmer, and I was sponsored by Gardner Dairy Foundation, as you can see there on the screen. Yeah. What is that? I think that's about it, isn't it? Yeah.
No, that's great, Aaron. I might then ask you what your motivation was for applying for the Rural Leadership Program.
My motivation was to see if I had anything left in the tank to flush out and push myself. I'd been through quite an extensive change personally, and the ARLP looked like that good fit to challenge my thoughts, challenge my narrative, and that succeeded in its job. I came out the other side a very different and probably even more balanced human being before I was when I started ARLP.
Oh, Aaron, there's so much in that. Can you just then tell me, building on that, why is it important for people on the call to talk to their family and work about the commitments in front of them?
Okay, look, I was actually talking to someone who's in the current program now. They reached out to me. I think it's really important just to have an open conversation with family and your workplace. It is a big commitment. You are physically away for some 50 days throughout the 15 months, so it is a big commitment. I was sharing with my buddy today that I probably underestimated how much of an impact it had on my two children. So yeah, if you got young children at home, please have a real open, honest conversation. It is a big commitment, but you will thoroughly enjoy it, and as long as you're open and have sort of clear expectations, you'll thoroughly enjoy every minute.
Great, thank you, Aaron. And Grant, why did you apply for the Australian Rural Leadership Program?
Yeah, thanks, Philippa. At the time, I was in the meat industry, in the processing sector. I'll jump to it in a moment, but I 30 odd years in the meat processing sector, and I was going up in management and leadership roles, and my capacity within the industry I felt it was lacking a little bit, and I could see the opportunity for greater leadership within the space I was working in, to probably lift the operational performance of where we were. So I jumped into that, and it all happened so quickly for me, Philippa. I was doing my learning trajectory was quite steep at that time, and ARLP flagged through an assignment in something else I was doing, and I had 7 days to apply, so I just jumped on and did it, and all of a sudden I was sitting in an interview room in Brisbane. So, and one that led to another thing, and there I was on course 24. But it was about me bettering myself. It was about me taking that then back to where I was working, my family. I was a new father of 2 children, and as Aaron just mentioned, that's a really important piece of the whole puzzle to bring together. And we talk about communication. If I can go there for a moment, I use a thing now. I guess when you're in those situations, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but you take the opportunity to find out what tomorrow will bring. And that's where I was. I just put my hand up and said, I'm going to take all these opportunities that come to me. ARLP was one of them. And that's how I approached the whole program for 15 months. Whenever an opportunity comes in, I put my hand up and said yes, as much as I could. And now, fast forward, it's given me the foundation to branch out and to do truly what I believe I'm meant to be doing, which is rural mental health, essentially. So I've gone from meat industry to rural mental health. And if I never did the RLP, I don't think I would have had the skill set and the foundation to push into that, and the confidence. But the communication, I think, out of all of that is the key, which I was not good at. And I've learned a lot about that. And I say to people now, how would you like to communicate with those people around you? And how would they like you to communicate with them? And
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really interesting perspective, especially when it comes to family, immediate family, and then workplace. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. And I think what you touch on there is that commitment to ongoing learning, and that this program won't give you the good oil. And also I'd say that regardless of where you're at in your career, this program's obviously about those that have already demonstrated leadership beyond their paid job and contributing in some way to the things that they love, and that different people pick up different things. So this program, one of the reasons it is so unique is that depending on where you are at in your professional and personal development journey, you will continue to pick up different lessons. So the lessons Grant have are really different in some ways to Aaron and Bernice's. And so Bernice, I'd love to hear why you applied for the ARLP. And further to that, let's start with that, Bernice.
Bless, thank you. Actually, I didn't apply. I was actually nudged. I was tapped on the shoulder to apply, and it took a bit for me to get used to embracing that, because I actually didn't see myself as a leader. And one of those things from when you do have an ally that wants you to throw your name in the hat, and that's what motivated me in the end, is to know that I had the support, but I also had not just the support from the person that was persistent in for me to apply, but also having small spot fire conversations with my family members to say, hey, I've been nudged to apply for this leadership program, and it's a pretty intensive one. So should I give it a go? And at the time of applying, I was actually supporting my family member through child safety to make sure that my little one, that was only 2 at the time, wasn't removed from her. So I was supporting that, but thankfully I had the support of my mum that was able to help with that. And but yeah, it was really so don't ever think you're not a leader.
Yeah, Bernice, I think you raise a really important point, and the story of being tapped on the shoulder, given a nudge, given a boot is a really common one, in that sometimes other people see things in us that we don't yet see in ourselves. And so for the ARLF, leadership exists everywhere. It's a verb, and it can be enacted by anybody, and we can continue always to learn more and be better. So thank you for sharing that, Bernice. Bernice, I will go for another question. Who was your sponsor, and did they have any expectations of you, Bernice?
Thank you for that question. My National Indigenous Australian Agency was my sponsor, and I was like reached out. They emailed me to just ask me how, like, congratulations, you're part of this amazing program. And one of the things from that is just to, like, when we talk about the power of networking, that even though it is your sponsor that's sponsoring you, you're always going to run into someone that's relating to that. So in the work that I was doing at the time as well, it was those opportunities around that, and you're always going to meet someone, whether it is the one that's sponsoring me or another sponsor. So, and I actually have in my travels, just in conversation, I'd actually run into someone that had completed course 6, and it was pretty cool. So and she was one of the, she was actually said that she was one of the first older female woman that was accepted in that, because it was more male dominated to begin with. So in the 32 years, it's grown so much in that diversity and inclusivity. So and it's really good to see. Well, that was my reason for not applying, because I didn't think, because it talks about rural leadership in the agricultural space or anything, and like the criteria, it was just like, oh, I don't think this is for me. But don't ever think something's not for you. Ask questions, like even you're here on this webinar now. Ask those questions. No question is a silly question.
Yeah, thanks, Bernice. And your reflection then just about, rural, regional and remote communities being closely associated with agriculture, and certainly a number of our scholarships are aligned to some of the research and development corporations. And we know just how complex and interrelated all those sectors are that make your community your community. And so we have a range of scholarships from many different sectors, and to Gemma's point earlier, continuing to try and push ourselves into sectors and work with philanthropists to ensure that we have the best people possible on the program. There is one question that I can see that's popped up in the chat, and it's about the selection process. So Gemma, Gordon, this one's for you. And it's around the understanding the variable competitiveness, I guess, of some of the scholarships, and how we manage 3 amazing candidates for 1 scholarship.
Oh, well, I've been doing this for 8 years, and that is probably one of the few downsides of the job, and it does not get any easier. I had just started to type out a reply to this question, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's a competitive process. So if you are only eligible for the Victorian Dairy Gardener Scholarship, and there are 3 of you competing for that scholarship, at the end of the day, the one that we recommend is the strongest candidate. So through the various stages of the recruitment process, candidates are ranked and scored, and we try and do it from all different angles to really determine who is the strongest candidate or most suited candidate for that scholarship. And then we do provide feedback through that process as well. So if that were the case and you were the 2 that just missed out, we would let you know that you'd been recommended for the program and at this time just unfortunately missed out on a scholarship, and we'd really welcome you to come back and apply again in subsequent years. And that's really common. So we do have people who've applied many more times than once before finally getting that precious scholarship. So it is the tough side of such a competitive. We only generally tend to have 30 to 35 scholarships and about 200 odd applicants. So yes, that I think just put your best and strongest application in that you can, and we do our best to spread those scholarships as far as we can.
Thank you, Gemma. Grant, you were funded by one of the industry scholarships that we have, and I know post-program, part of your story is that you went on to take on some leadership roles within the industry. Can you talk a little bit about the expectations that your sponsor had, and I guess also how the industry can, seeks to work with the ARLF a little bit in that process? So a bit of a dual question in terms of your alumni hat, but also some of that industry knowledge that you have as well, Grant.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Philippa. So I was sponsored by the Australian Meat Processor Corporation, AMPC. They're the RDC arm of AMIC, so the meat processing innovation space and leadership space, people development space. Their expectation was basically we had a really robust discussion at the start, and we agreed that we'll do a report at the end of each session. And so I did a written report, which then was placed on their website for further possible applicants to view. And then we did a promotional video at the end of it, which I think if you Google Grant Melrose and AMPC, you'll see it at 20 million views. But it was really an interesting experience. But that was probably their expectation on me, so they could expect to hold ARLF accountable, that everything was being met from their perspective, which is really interesting. But personally through that process, I got a lot out of it, because I was reflecting a lot more than I would have if I didn't do that. And I dug a lot deeper to give them those responses after every session, which was really insightful for myself. So even if your sponsor says, "I don't worry about it," I'd encourage, go to them proactively and say, "Here, I'm going to give you something every month, every session, regardless," because it serves you just as much as it serves them. Since then, I still am currently sitting on the Australian Lot Feed Association board, Alpha, which we put one participant through ARLP, which is co-funded with MLA, I believe. MLA, Alpha choose the participant. So our expectation on that participant is probably just what I explained from AMPC's view, is that we like to hear back from them what's going on, what they're learning, what are they picking up, and then what of that is useful or purposeful for the specific industry. So what can they take back to their own feedlot and their own community that serves that feedlot, that will overall better the industry. So that's what we'd like to see in a report back from them. And we get them to come in, they come and have dinner with us. It's very interactive, and we're in touch with them a lot. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting process. And like I said, very insightful, purposeful for both the participant and the sponsor.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. And I think it's really great. We've got two very different lived experiences of sponsor engagement. Bernice spoke earlier about NIAA being quite hands-off in terms of their engagement and expectation, and they really just wanted to know that she was out there doing her work and doing it better, and she could leverage then off some of the other engagement around sponsors and the alumni network. And grants sponsored by one industry body and now contributing to the leadership of another, and the marry of those two things, and just how important the interconnectedness is, and the value that our funders get from that shared investment as well. Aaron, a question for you. If there was some advice that you needed to give everyone, drawing on your experience, what is it that you wish you'd known before applying for the RLP? Or just more broadly, advice for people considering applying.
Yeah, so to answer your first part of your question, Philippa, I was just you know, I suppose was to have more of an open mind. Personally, like really, and I really like Grant's comment about going after every opportunity, and I think I whacked that in the chat. Like, it took me probably halfway through the program to actually go, you know what, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna say yes to everything. If an opportunity comes my way, I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna run with it. If I get it right, I get it right. If I stuff it, I stuff it. I don't care. I'm not going to come here and sit on my hands. And Bernice will attest to this. You just got to jump in the deep end and go for it. So yeah, I was a little bit shattered that it took me half the program to come to that realization. But yeah, that'd be my advice: is listen to what Grant said, listen to what I've said, and just, if an opportunity comes your way while you're on program, take it and run with it, because it could lead to something amazing that another member of your cohort might not get to experience because you know, they sat back and didn't jump at that opportunity. And that's perfectly okay. So that might be just in some people's wheelhouse. But if you've got it in you to jump in the deep end, you'll either sink, but you'll get pulled back up, or you'll float and you'll do an amazing job. So yeah, that would be my bit of advice, and hopefully answered the first part of your question, Philippa.
Awesome, Aaron. And that'd be as much jump in and just put the application in as well as once you're then on program. So it starts right now.
Absolutely.
Aaron, another question. Earlier on, you mentioned that it was challenging for your family at home. And I know you had wonderful support from your workplace, but it'd be great just to understand how what people could be doing. And I know talking's one thing, but what were some of those challenges that you found while you were away from home for those lengths of time?
So the other sessions were a lot easier, Philippa, of course, because we had our phones. So, you know, as much as I was trying to stay off my devices throughout the day, it was really good that my children knew that at the end of the day, they could shoot me a message, I could ring them and whatnot. So it got easier as my program went along. But session one, I probably dismissed. Like, I knew we weren't going to have contact for so many days, but I probably dismissed how hard that was going to be for my girls. So I wish I had sort of spent a bit more time explaining to them that, you know, there is going to be a section of time that I will not be able to contact, but I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be good. Everything's going to be fine. I sort of just packed my bags and went, see you guys, and I'll be back when I'm back. And, you know, I probably didn't spend enough time reassuring them that I was going to be good. I was safe. I was fine. I wasn't out of the country. I was just a long flight away. Like, everything would have been okay. I didn't spend enough time getting them ready for that experience as well. So yeah, that's some learning. And yeah, and I even if I go away for a short time now, I make sure I spend the time to tell my girls, right, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, this is what time you can reach me. So that's some learnings that I've actually have built into my life and relationship since program.
Yeah, that's great, Aaron. Thank you for sharing that. And that's certainly something for those that are accepted on the Australian Rural Leadership Program. The ARLF team will work with you, and there's a number of strategies and tips and tricks we've got in place to support that process for everyone, because everyone's situation's different. And we'll give you some opportunity to navigate that. That you don't need to do that. Ultimately, it's your responsibility, but we do have some ways in which we can provide support and connection for those loved ones as well. Bernice, would you be able to share a little bit more about your experience and then some advice in terms of what you would give people seeking to apply?
Bless, Philippa.
Yes, in about, a few minutes or less, by the way.
Be prepared to be vulnerable, and also it's okay to show that vulnerability to complete strangers. Fire truck is my substitute word for the F. So if you have to say it out loud. But also know that you have each other, even though you do first come together as complete strangers, if your application is accepted and you are successful. And don't just be drawn to those in your area. Like, if you're from the beef industry or a rural area, go out there, be amongst it all, because you do learn a lot about another person and how that person can also help you when you do move through the program and also post the program, so that you are leaning into that learning. And when like, it's a highly competitive program, and I spoke from the heart. I spoke from in here. Well, I wrote from in here, I should say, so that when I express that out there, this is what my passion is. It wasn't about I wanted to be a leader, I wanted to be this, and this. It's about you as the individual, to what you want to aim to gain for the purpose of what you want to do. And the purpose of that is how you're not just going out there to fill in this application. You're doing it because you have a value and purpose. It's like a mission statement or a capability statement of yours that you're going to deliver or submit. So, and one of the things out of it is it's okay also to be to challenge on things and be we know we're going to come up against obstacles, and we know we're going to be it really does challenge the depth of your leadership. You think that you're a leader now, you're going to be a fire truck and leader by the time you get through this 15 months. And it's going to be a pretty incredible journey, because it tests you through the laughter, through the joy, and through the tears. So whatever you do, just don't give up on you when you do that.
Yeah, thanks, Bernice. What wonderful advice. I have noticed there's a few questions coming through, and I did just want to put voice to some of them. I know Gemma's working in the chat, but conscious some people are only listening on their phones, and so chats get a bit trickier. And I guess just to highlight that, you know, we've had people in their mid-20s participate in the ARLP, and their energy and enthusiasm and lived experience and what they're bringing to our regions is equally important as the wisdom and lived experience of those that are taking on leadership roles in their 50s and 60s. And for us, it's about that demonstrated leadership and that desire, willingness to learn and do and be better. And further to that, obviously, where you see yourself being able to articulate an idea about your contribution into the future and your commitment in that way. All travel costs are covered from your home airport. You pay a participant fee, and there's some incidentals along the way. There's some a taxi fare or something, and a few meals, but the majority of those costs are covered outside your participant fee. And the program, people manage the days away from work in really different ways, and work depending on your workplace. Some people are taking annual leave, unpaid leave, PD study leave. So it's really up to, and some people obviously don't have access to any of those leave because they're a business owner, and when they're not earning money, you know, when they're on a program, they're not earning money. So we acknowledge that and do our best to support people as we can. And there's the full mix of everything from one extreme to the other that participants are managing. Grant, is there any final advice that you'd like to give participants on the call before we look to close?
Yeah, thanks, Philippa. I think it's probably just reiterate what Aaron and Bernice has said. Pre-frame before you go. Jump in and do it. Like, that's probably the best thing. Like, what if you don't?
Yeah, that's great, Grant.
And what if you do? You don't know unless you go. You don't know unless you have a go. Fear is a thing that holds a lot of us back, and it's only a thing. It's only a thought. That's all it is. It's nothing. It doesn't even exist. We make it exist in ourselves. So even being here, if you're on this webinar, that means you have energy towards applying. So if nothing else happens, put the application in. Step one, you can sit back for a little bit, go to the interview, the workshops that Philippa mentioned earlier, and take it piece by piece. Don't look at it as a big picture. Just take it piece by piece. Approach it day by day. Bernice said you'll be fire trucking excellent at the end of it.
Thanks, Grant.
That's it. Yeah, just do it. What if you don't? That's the question. What if you don't do it? Where will you end up?
That's great, Grant. Aaron,
Grant.
anything final from you?
Nah, look, Grant summed that up just amazing. Yeah, I'm the same. Just jump in, guys and girls. You got nothing to lose. Just jump in, have a crack. And yeah, I can guarantee that if you are successful, it will be a program of a lifetime.
Thanks so much, Aaron. And Bernice?
Yes, just going off from both Grant and Aaron, go for it. And it's not, it's becomes a family. Like you just never know in conversation. You just meeting someone. I'm going through all the little numbers that I've met from C2 right through to now. So you just could meet someone could be right beside you. And even if someone doesn't nudge you, nudge yourself, because don't ever self-doubt yourself in what you can do or achieve. Because you may only be the only person that'll be the barrier against what you can achieve going forward.
Yeah, thanks, Bernice. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. This is like the tiniest part of a step, and some of you are certainly asking those really great questions. So thank you. Continue to challenge us. Ask the questions. Bernice said it earlier, there's no silly one, because we're really committed to ensuring that rural, regional and remote Australia has the best leadership possible to take the opportunities and the challenges in front of us. For those that are keen on applying, you've clearly, for most of you, already been on our website. Please make sure you go back there. You can click apply now or find out more about course 32. Please note, where possible, try to use a personal email such as a Gmail when applying, as strict firewalls in government and other organisations exist, which means sometimes our emails about the application and selection process along the way may not get back to you. So if you do have a personal email, use that and contact us for any technical inquiries as well. Thank you so much. Thank you actually for what you're already doing in rural, regional and remote Australia. You're here because you're already making a difference and you're seeking to understand how you can do that better. So thanks for that contribution, and I hope to see your application soon.
See you guys. Go well.
Thank you. Good night. Best of luck.